so I don't mispronounce names and titles. But thanks for coming in all our editorial board sessions. We've always had the standing rule, or at least get the agreement up front, that everything said is on the record. So now we're videotaping our editorial board sessions to put on our website and make available to the public. So it's always good to just get that agreement out front, and I'm sure you were versed on that before you came, and we welcome you, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to ask questions. If I could, David, if you want to introduce yourself and with title, and we'll get our other guest as well.
Sure. David Tutzloff, Executive Director at Naples Zoo.
I'm John Garrison. I'm the Southwest Florida Office Director for the Trust for Public Land.
And I'm Ray Carroll, the 2010 President of the Board of Directors of Naples Zoo.
Welcome, and we'll take 30 minutes of your time, so thanks again. Jeff, you want to start us off?
David, you said you might be coming here today with some news about possible expansion of the zoo, and why don't we just take it from there and tell us your story.
Okay, I'll just have a couple comments, and also I'd like to ask John Garrison to speak. Just to give a quick history lesson going back a couple years. This is the land the zoo acquired that's outlined in red with that referendum in 2004, which John Garrison, Trust for Public Lands, were significant orchestrators. As a matter of fact, I call him my white knight and the white horse, because when all started to implode between the county and the Fleischman estate, TPL rode in and actually saved the day and helped negotiate the whole process, and that's what we got, was our current footprint of 43 acres. As you know, yes.
South, excuse me.
That's right.
Yes, I'm sorry, south.
South,
right, correct. Okay. You all are more than aware on the editorial board that there was a project that was going on for a couple of years, and that was called the Bridges of Gordon River, and it was a group from Massachusetts called Senior Care Development, and they spent a year and a half, 2 years working through the Planning Commission, City Council, and got annexed into the city. Spent a lot of money here in town, and when the economy started to fall, they backed out. So that put this property back on the market. The owner of this property has also been, along with TPL, one of the first benefactors to the zoo, so we were kind of privy to the opportunity. As we started to discuss the options of this, TPL came back in the picture because they were such a great partner before. The benefits to the zoo are many, actually, if we were to acquire this property. And I'll let John go through the process, but I just wanted to outline for you guys some of the benefits. And now that you've seen the property, if you have any questions, we can bring the map up. I just wanted to go over the talking points that I had, why this possibly would be a good idea. Number one, this would increase the zoo's size by 50%. It would increase our footprint from 43 acres to approximately 65 acres. We already feel we're on the track to be one of the best small zoos in the country, but this would put us up into the realm of what's a medium-sized zoo. That would mean the budget over $6 million. Currently our budget's just over $4 million. This would increase jobs in the community. Certain aspects would be brought in from outside the community, specialized jobs as animal keepers. But remember, a zoo is much more than animal keepers. Most of our talent in the zoo for the other positions comes from local folks. Our gift shop people, our boat drivers, our maintenance people, our grounds. So we do help create jobs, and this could actually add about 30 new jobs to the zoo if we had this expansion. We also feel that if it were to become public land, this would be part of this continued private partnership, public partnership that we started with the community 6 years ago, where the community made an investment in the zoo land with the referendum. So in 2004, we all voted for 73% of the voters voted for that small referendum, which is 0.15 mil, to tax ourselves, which, because of the state economy, it was paid off in 4 years instead of the expected 10. So that was worth celebrating. We feel would be a real environmentally friendly use for that property. When you think of the alternatives that could go, we support the senior care development, mind you. We thought it'd be a good neighbor, a good fit for us. But now that we ourselves are looking at possible expansion, we think we would be a great fit for that property. And unlike any other users of that property, we would create no traffic issues on the parkway. Our main entrance is Fleischman Goodlet, would continue to be Fleischman Goodlet even with the addition of that property. it would make a larger resource for the community to visit and also enable us to expand our animal collection. And also, I feel that the zoos of the future, even though we expand the collection, the zoos of the future I think would offer more spaces for a suitable size collection. We're past the time where I think we're showing you basically what in the old days was considered to be a cabinet of curiosity, just rows and rows after cages. We've gotten by that ourselves, as most zoos have, but this enabled us to expand the collection while giving the animals much larger living spaces. Also, we think, again, we're leaving a legacy for the future. This would be, something that would be built out with our master plan. It wouldn't happen overnight, but job one for us could possibly be getting acquisition of this property, and that's what John helped. I want to explain your role, sir.
Sure. Thanks, David. I'm with the Trust for Public Land, which many of you may know is a national nonprofit land conservation organization. We work throughout the United States, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And our job is to conserve land for people to enjoy as parks, zoos, open spaces, hiking, biking trails, you name it. We've been in Florida for 32 years. We've preserved tens of thousands of acres of land worth hundreds of millions of dollars for many counties, cities, all levels of government, from national parks right down to small city parks. So that's our role. About 6 years ago, I was contacted by Collier County, Administrator Jim Mudd at the time, and asked for TPL to step in and see if we could pick up a broken negotiation between the county and the Fleischman family that owned the 166-acre parcel that David showed on the map. It fit our mission to a T, so I gladly said we would love to see what we can do. We were able to negotiate a successful transaction that was fair to all parties. The county got 130 acres and paid far less than it would have paid if we hadn't gone through a new appraisal process to get the price to reflect current fair market value. So it was a good deal for the taxpayers of Collier County. About 29 of those acres went to the developer that David referred to. It's a company called Caribbean Venture LLC. Tom Overson, you may know, who is a prominent real estate developer here in Naples. And then 7 acres actually went to the Conservancy of Southwest Florida for the expansion of their campus, which was just to the south of the zoo. We were thrilled, and during the process, I got to get to know David, and that was maybe the best part of the whole deal, because I have a tremendous amount of respect for what he has been able to accomplish. You folks in Naples and in Collier County are so lucky. You've got one of the premier zoos in America, not just one of the premier small zoos. It is just a phenomenal facility. It is well loved. It's visited by almost 300,000 people a year. Fabulous exhibits, extremely well done, wonderful education program for not only kids but adults as well. It's all good. The zoo is just a wonderful, wonderful member of the Naples community. And so when the opportunity came to help the zoo expand, when the call came to that, I said, heck yes, I would very much like to see what we can do there. So, and this only started just a few weeks ago, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So at this point, what we have proposed to do, and we have met with the county administrator and with the county commission and other senior managers in the county government, and propose let's do it the same way we preserved the land 5 years ago. Let's do a ballot referendum in the general election ballot in November, and ask the voters to consider a very small incremental property tax to allow us to acquire this acreage for the expansion of the zoo. We have offered to step in and actually do polling. We would contract with a polling company that would devise a questionnaire and then poll several hundred citizens of the county to see whether they were supportive of such a measure in November. Assuming they are, I believe the county administration and the county government will move forward with it. And I believe this county's got a great track record in setting aside money for land acquisition. I mean, you're one of the leading counties in Florida from that standpoint. You've saved so much of the really endangered critically threatened, environmentally sensitive lands. And my hat's off to you there. You're a real model for other counties throughout the state. So I really believe that the voters will see the benefit to a very slight incremental additional tax, even in this tough economic time, to set aside room for the zoo to do a major expansion. And as David mentioned, this is a one-time opportunity. When that's the only land that's adjacent to the zoo that is available for expansion. And if that were developed, had it become the senior care facility, that would have been all wonderful. But there would have been, really the silver lining on that dark cloud is now there's room available for the zoo to expand. So we're very, very optimistic about it and hopeful that the county will choose tomorrow in its commission meeting to move ahead to the next step, which is the polling. And based upon the results of that poll, which we think will be very positive, go ahead and put it on the general election ballot in November. And that we can go ahead then at that point and acquire the land and convey it back to the county at such time as their funding becomes available. And they could then enter into another long-term lease with the Naples Zoo to increase the size of the land on lease to them by these additional acres. And then David, in a very methodical and organized approach of the way he does everything, can expand the zoo and make it even a greater and better attraction for all of us. So it's a win-win in the estimation of the Trust for Public Land, and I am very happy to be involved.
How much will it cost, and how soon do you have to tell the supervisor of elections? Because she will have a deadline for her ballots. So what kind of time frame and budget are we talking about?
In July, we have to. The decision has to be made in July to put it on the ballot, and the question has to be written. The ballot language has to be written
by July 26th.
So we have a bit of a window here, and it's so important. The first step is going to be to do this polling, because if we're wrong, if the voters don't support this, we want to know it up front so that we don't go through a lot of unnecessary work to, but we don't think that's going to be the case. We think it's going to receive wide support.
How much money are we talking about?
We don't know yet. The first step is an appraisal, just as it was when we did the first acquisition. We're going to commission an independent appraisal and determine fair market value.
But that's what Ray does. You have to have some ballpark working figure in mind.
That's the funny thing about appraisers. If they're really appraisers, they don't have a ballpark idea in mind.
Okay,
they just know how to find the answer.
Not my business. I'm a zoo man, Jeff.
When Caribbean Venture picked it up from the Fleischmans, did we know what they paid for it?
They paid in the mid-20s.
Okay.
And they actually bought it from the Trust for Public Land. We bought the whole property and then subdivided it into the 3 parcels. And we sold the county its parcel. We sold Caribbean Ventures and we sold the Conservancy. So yes, it was in the mid-20s.
Okay. And what year was that?
It was December of 2005. So almost coming up on 5 years.
Very good. Now I think you said I was trying to do the math in my head and I'm not real good at that. But
sure.
How many acres is it? 22, it sounds like.
22 and a fraction.
But isn't there more that Caribbean owns?
Yes, they own another
7
acres, which is a triangular portion over adjacent to the Bear's Paw development.
But that's not
part of this. That's on the other side of the Golden Gate Canal, and not part of this.
Do they have plans for that? Are they willing to keep that? Or
they're willing to keep that, and maybe when the economy improves, there might be some residential development there. But I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay.
What does Bear's Paw have to say about this? You've talked to them.
Have not met with them. We wanted to cover our bases first. We've met with 4 of the 5 commissioners, wanted to meet with you all, and we'll take next steps. And a lot of those next steps will be based on taking the temperature of the commissioners tomorrow and how they feel about going forward. If they're not in favor of going forward, then it might not be worth doing. I mean, you have to understand, one of our main concerns is that if we don't want to push forward aggressively if the taxpayers, the voters, are not going to be behind this. That's why we think that the polling that TPL will do is critical, because I like to go out to the Picayune Forest, hang around. I drive through the estates. I've seen the unmowed lawns. I've seen a lot of things for sale in front yards I haven't seen before. Airboats, ATVs, boats, cars, etc. But if you just take one ballpark model that TPL did, it would be a few dollars a year per person. I mean, basically, as John referred, it's barely a rounding error. It's, barely a cheap bottle of wine a year on all of our backs to preserve more land for the zoo, which is a public benefit. I mean, because of this vote 6 years ago, we've offered those benefits. We promised and we held fast. We have a monthly free day, and locals get a 50% discount on their membership, which has worked out very well. We have our highest membership ever. We have 22,000 individual members. So we're taking advantage of, the taxpayers are, of not only a free day, but also a discounted membership. They can come anytime they want. So we feel this is, once in a lifetime opportunity, because if we don't go for this now, we might lose it to something else. And we seriously feel we're a great fit for this property, but we also feel that if John Garrison TPL were not on board, we wouldn't be sitting here right now. It's because of their belief in, like John said, the track record that Collier County has in land acquisition and preservation, that we think because of that, we're a good idea and we're a good fit for this, if the voters are willing.
What is it the county will be approving tomorrow? Just the process of polling?
Just basically a green light to go ahead and start exploring this is what we're looking for. Just a little direction from the commissioners.
The Naples City Council it's only been a few months since they gave the green light for the bridges project, and it was pretty dense, and there was quite a hoo-ha about it at City. Okay. So did that approval increase the value of the property?
It probably didn't decrease it, because it put some specific uses on the property that were kind of general before. It's just that the market we're in right now is pretty flat for vacant land.
Again, as Ray says, all that data will be taken in by a very professional appraiser and crunched and going through all of the very professional process that appraisers go through to come up with the highest and best use and the ultimate market value.
John, do you take one appraisal, or do you get three and take the one in the middle? How does that work in these kind of
well,
cases? What are you recommending?
I would hark back to what we did 5 years ago. The Fleischmans had done an appraisal, and the county had done an appraisal, and one of them was about twice what the other one was. And we went out and retained the services of a third appraiser, one that we have worked with frequently. He's not even based in Naples. He's based in Tampa. Right. But he's, in my opinion, one of the finest appraisers in the state of Florida. He's on all of the approved lists. And he came in and did a very in-depth study and an analysis and came up with an appraisal that worked for all parties. It was somewhere in between.
Right.
So I would intend to retain his services again. He did such an excellent job, and he had the respect of everyone in Collier County government, as well as the Fleischmans liked the appraisal, and they're not easy to please, I might say. I think that he can probably produce for us a value that we can all say is fair for everybody.
Would the seller not want to have their own appraisal too?
Well, I don't like to use seller appraisals because...
But they would want that out there just on the chance it might show a higher figure, would they not?
Possibly, but I've asked anybody who's got existing valuation numbers in their head probably just to keep that to themselves so as not to muddy the water. Let's just start fresh, have this guy come in and appraise the property. What's it worth today in this market?
David, you mentioned the previous issue was paid off in 4 years instead of 10. Is that no longer showing up on anyone's tax bill?
It's gone. Right.
It's gone. So something that you might be implemented now would just, in a sense, be replacing that.
You might be able to say that in simple terms, sure.
However, it would be at a lesser rate.
Much
sure,
less.
It would be less rate.
Right.
Yeah. I think the first model we showed, it could be somewhere between $2 and $3 per year per $100,000 of assessed value. For a few years.
The one that went for 20 years would be, this is just a rough estimate, would be $2.29 per 100K of property. If the bond went for 20 years.
Okay.
Help me out.
Bear with me now. That would be what millage rate?
0.229. Is that correct, sir, Mr. Appraiser?
Put you on the spot, right?
It was less than 1/10 of a mil, wasn't it?
Yeah. Be 0.0029.
Yeah, I don't have that table with me, but
it was about a third of the
We're gonna give
millage
them
of
math
from
teachers.
before, as I recall. Pretty small fraction.
Yeah.
Is the zoo looking to go, should you get this property, in a certain direction, a certain type of animal?
What this enables us to do is expand our whole coastal theme that we'll have with the master plan. We have a couple objectives that we have to attend to immediately. We've raised enough money with our fundraiser and private donations to create what's the temporary holding area for our giraffe. Now we're going to go ahead and start fundraising for what I'm calling the Mac Daddy Giraffe exhibit, where there'll be public feeding and so forth. So that's job one, and then we're going to go into a silent and then public phase of our master plan, which will come in several different phases. But phase one would be new parking for 200 more cars than we have now, a whole new zoo entrance, and a whole new service support area, which our physical plant maintains. So first giraffe, then capital campaign. But we have a theme to our master plan that most zoos don't have, and that is coastal areas, because we live in a coastal area. So our job is expand these areas and talk about people, places, plants, animals that live in coastal zones. So acquisition of this will enable us to expand that whole theme and make each area that we plan larger: Africa, Asia, coastal America.
So this property is still in the county, it wasn't annexed into the
It was
city?
annexed.
It was annexed.
That's what I thought, okay. So, should you be going to City Hall too?
Well, we have. We've gotten the blessing of Mayor Barnett, but it will be a county project. The city won't be acquiring it, the county will. That often happens, that counties acquire land, counties acquire land that's in incorporated areas in cities within their
By
county.
county, what we really mean to say is all of the taxpayers of Collier
Exactly.
County, which takes in the city.
Right.
It presents some interesting future problems in terms of whether or not how you plan a parcel that crosses a line like that's kind of interesting. It's not unknown, not undone, but it's interesting. Like all things with the zoo, it's interesting almost all the time.
What's on the property right now? Is it?
It's vacant.
There's no structures at all?
No structures.
It looks like a lake on the map.
Yeah,
but
there's a retention pond or something of that sort.
Okay.
Earl Hodges at one time had some property in that area. Does this include his property or his property?
He sold to the development group
Okay.
several years ago, so that they have a complete
Yeah.
ownership
There was
of
a
the whole
little
thing.
in there.
The master plan that you have with the zoo right now, David, that's going to proceed whether this 20 acres, extra 20
That's right,
acres
Phil.
is picked up.
Our master
you're-
plan right now shows our current 43 acres.
So even without the additional land, you're going to have more parking, you're going to have a new
Yes, sir.
entrance built.
Absolutely.
And all of that is off Goodlet.
Right, that's all been in the plans.
Okay.
We've actually had two different versions. Our board just voted for a new version of the master plan as well.
How about time frame? This say that it is on the ballot. It passes. When would the land be acquired?
Well,
Best
at
case?
that point, the Trust for Public Land could go ahead and close the transaction with the landowner, hold the property for whatever period of time.
Okay, so you become the owner.
Yeah, we'd become the interim owner of the land until
Yep.
such time as the county funding was available.
When could the zoo do something with it? And
As soon as they finalize a new lease agreement that would extend, the lease to include those acreage.
would the lease be with you, or would it? in
No,
the interim, or-
interestingly enough, we actually negotiated the lease during our period of interim ownership on the
Oh,
original
okay.
transaction, and then turned the property over to the county with the lease in place. That was at the county's request. I suppose we could do the same thing again if the county elects to ask us to do so. That'll be their call.
Best case scenario, how long until that parcel up there would become part of the zoo tour, where I'd be walking around up there and seeing
It
the
would
sights?
take time. It'd be fundraising dependent. I can't lie about that. To develop that property, it'd be in the future.
5 years, 10 years?
I'd say at
More?
least 10 years plus.
But
Phil, if you wanted to come for a special tour,
How about at night with mosquito repellent?
but title of the property will have passed to the county well before
Before
as
that.
early as early next year.
And then, plus the zoo has a lot that they've got planned that
Lots to keep us
Yeah.
entertained. Yep.
You mentioned that the main entrance would remain off Goodwood Frank Road.
The main drive-through, yes.
Okay. But would there be any kind of entrance at all off the parkway?
We don't plan on that because we don't. I saw what happened with the bridges and all the traffic concerns that everyone expressed, because I went to many of those city council meetings as well, and we don't want to be a burden in any way as far as creating another traffic hazard on the parkway. So we would actually plan on, you would come in, we come in off Fleischman, and our new parking lot would be all asphalt, all paved, all through this area. So, as I said, we would grow our spot, and that's a partnership we have with Collier County, because some of that would be on their piece to the south of us. So it would be a cost share with Collier County that all our service support, all our public guests would come in this way.
We should point out that the buildings over on the left, that's Coastland Center.
Coastal Mall, Fleischman Park, Zoo, Conservancy of Southwest Florida.
Thank you.
Bear's Paw.
Yes, there's
Yes,
Bear's Paw.
Bear's
Thank
Paw.
you.
What question are we missing? We always miss something. What are we missing?
Maybe why now? And we've touched around that a little bit. I got to tell you that my initial reaction, and the idea didn't begin with any one person. Several people popped up and were quick to see the strategic import of that kind of expansion. My initial reaction was, not a good idea.
Time.
Yeah, timing economically, but also we had heard of another referendum issue that was moving forward, and the zoo doesn't want to be a spoiler in anything like that. And we've since heard that maybe that's not going to move forward. We're not certain. That issue seems to have dissipated. Nagging at all of us is the economy that we're in and the things David was talking about. There's so many people that are really stretched thin right now, and why would anybody vote to increase their tax bill? And it may seem perverse, but I would have to tell you that sometimes in an economy like this, when you feel that it's kicked you pretty hard, an opportunity to take advantage of the moment helps. And this is one of the many opportunities that are presenting themselves today, and you've got to have a little bit of money to do something. But here's a chance for Mr. Ordinary in Collier County to take advantage of the moment in a way that he might not be able to do on his own behalf, but on a public sense. Here's an opportunity that might not present itself again, and it's a little bit of a win for everybody. I know that is hard to eat, but sometimes things like that buoy people a little bit in tough times. So, yeah, after we do the polling, the zoo is very strong in its assertion that unless the polling shows that there's a high probability of success, we don't want to go forward. The zoo doesn't want to be a part of something that the public's not going to really log on to. And TPL feels the same way.
Absolutely.
So I think tomorrow what's being asked of the county commission is only a nod to proceed with some exploration, no commitment. Nobody's asking the county to spend any money tomorrow. And if the county thinks it's worth the gamble, TPL's willing to spend some money. We're willing to help if we can. If the poll results come back and are clear, then we're going to get pretty excited, and we're going to be a part. If it's not clear, we'll be patient. We'll just wait.
John, how are you going to do the polling in this day and
we
age?
do this.
Am I likely to be asked? Or?
There's a possibility there will be several hundred telephone interviews conducted by a Republican polling firm that we retain in Colorado, but they've done lots of work in Florida for us. We've done these issues all around the country for like 20 years now. We're pretty good at it.
You call registered voters in Collier County and you ask them their thoughts on
There's a series of questions that they'll be asked.
tax and
Use
the zoo specifically?
Yes, the zoo will be mentioned specifically.
A Republican firm?
Well, I don't know. I was just told to me this morning that my colleagues at the Trust for Public Land looked at the firms that would be best suited to do one in Collier County, and they thought this firm was the ideal one.
And the issue you're talking about, is that some type of tax for children's services?
That's the one we've been concerned about. And my initial reaction was no. We don't want to be a spoiler. And I don't think that's going to be an issue. But I have to tell you, I haven't made that decision. Of course, that's somebody else's decision.
In other words, you don't think it's going to be an issue like it won't be on the ballot?
All right.
That's what I'm
That's what we're
thinking.
told.
I could be wrong, but I think that the zoo has on its board an attorney that was also from the firm that represented the Bridges project and its rezoning and all that stuff at City Hall, I think. And my question is, if that's the case, was everything, were you able to keep everything at arm's length and everything so it's transparent?
Who are you talking about, Jeff?
Okay. Like I said, I could be wrong.
Because I'm not aware of that,
Okay.
and I don't know everything. So
Okay, well, I don't either. If I could be more specific, his name escapes me right now, but I was just thinking they might as well get that out now because you know this is going to be picked apart.
Yeah.
But
I don't believe so.
I'm not aware of that.
good.
Thank you. We appreciate you taking the time.
It's our
No,
pleasure.
likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've got a great facility here. I'm very impressed with this, everything about this building.
So are we.
I bet you're thrilled to be in it.
Yeah,
aren't
we
you?
are. Thank you.